Greetings, this is the Get to Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. I was called to the location of Three Oaks apartment, and I recorded and I did live streams up to Facebook. I must say that it's a strange thing that is happening across this country. Blacks are being shot by police officers. And this is nothing new. This goes back to the time when blacks came to this country and they was murdered outright, considered three-fifths of a human being. The Dred Scott decision of 1857 said that no black man had any rights that a white man was bound to respect. And so looking back over what has happened the last few days, it seems as if though very little has changed. But I read the Valdosta Daily Times article, and it seems to me that there still is something gravely wrong in this country. There was people who asked Reverend Rose questions, and I think that the questions that was asked, and as well as his response, was of a caliber that the people here in Valdosta, Lowndes County, the state of Georgia, and around the nation probably would love to have heard. And so the Valdosta Daily Times ignored all of those people. However, what I did is that I did go through and record it. And in this video, you will see those people because once again, you will hear them. And once again, that's because I do believe in freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and your right to know. I'm asking you to sit back, relax, and see what we have recorded, because I am amazed as well as disappointed in this country when it comes down to freedom of the press and the things that we espouse to around the world in terms of being a nation of laws. But it's getting very, very serious that in my opinion, that no black person should enlist in the United States Armed Forces until this government began to treat blacks in a way that is respectful as all other human beings that lives here in the United States of America. Once again, I'm George Boston Rhymes, and I do this because I am sick and tired of us watching news and thinking that we are getting the news when all we are getting is another dose of indoctrination that will keep us all deaf, dumb, and blind to the times, and unable to make an intelligent decision based on facts. Now I'm asking you to sit back and watch my day, along with others that traveled with me to the scene of this outstanding police officer, I'm told, and the perpetrator of this crime. They say it was an ambush. Well, I want to see the complete police report before I go farther, and right now it's on investigation. But I'm saying to everybody in America, you cannot trust people who don't have your best interests at heart and who seemingly wants to shape every aspect of our lives. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press, sit back, enjoy, and reflect upon the founding fathers of this great republic who wanted us to be free. But it seems as if though they are those today that want to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind at times and unable to make intelligent decisions based on facts. The young man right there, he is waiting to get in. His wife is inside of the complex there. She called him at work and he came to check on her, but of course, you know, he cannot get in, but he's patiently waiting. I think his wife has children, but he said he think they're safe because they're on the phone. Once again, this is the Get to Free Press, George Boston Rhymes. We report what others ignore. Okay.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I want to begin by saying the Washington Post says that in 2015, 989 black people were killed by the police. And even though black men make up only 6% of the population, 40% of those killed by the police were black men. And I've wrestled with this question for a while now, and I just don't understand. Don't understand why it is that most of the blacks that are shot and killed by the police are unarmed and, with few exceptions, shot by white police officers. No thinking American will ever suggest that the vast majority of, no thinking American would ever suggest that all white police officers are racist or trigger happy when it comes to blacks. The vast majority of them are kind, respectful, and only want to serve and protect their communities. The attack on the police in Dallas, killing 5 and wounding 7, was vicious, malicious, calculating, and without justification. Nobody, whether they are wearing blue uniforms or blue jeans, have the right to take human life. At this time, we don't know whether or what the race or color of the perpetrator or perpetrators was, and must not rush to judgment about it until we learn a little more. I want to be clear. As of now, we have not had any such incident in Valdosta, notwithstanding the police incident a few minutes ago that had absolutely nothing to do with Black Lives Matter or with this movement. And I want to be clear about that. I believe it is because, and I believe that we haven't had such an incident in Valdosta because of leadership from the top. I saw an email that Chief Childress sent just last night to his men, which said in essence, be polite, introduce yourself, and tell the person why you are there, why you stopped them. And unfortunately, most states now give citizens the right to carry guns, which has only given the police the excuse to shoot and kill blacks. All the police has to say is that they thought they had a gun, never mind that they had a legal right to carry it. What was the black man's crime in Minnesota? Philando Castile. He had a busted tail light. A busted tail light. Questions are still out there. Was the officer wearing a camera? If not, why not? And if so, we all need to see what the camera shows. What happened in Baton Rouge and Minnesota could never be justified. Now, that's my official written statement, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have from the press.
I guess one question I would have is, we've heard a lot of no justice, no peace. I want to know what exactly, what kind of justice is acceptable? What are you looking for? What should we as a community be looking for when we say justice? Because a lot of people are saying, well, the justice system is working, it's just not working in the favor of the victims. What can be done? How can we change that? And what kind of justice do we want to see?
I'd like to see the police officer treated just like I would be treated, period. No exceptions. If he takes out his gun and shoots somebody and kills them, I don't want to see them put him on administrative leave with pay. They wouldn't do me like that. They would arrest me on the spot, take me to jail, and then do an investigation. And that's what we want to see happen. Now, black folk will say no justice, no peace, because they know that with justice comes peace. White folks, on the other hand, talk about being cool and calm and don't y'all be peaceful. Well, the only folk they say that to is black folks.
Reverend Rose Blanche, voices representing WHLJ Foxy 97.5.
Yeah.
Would you agree that part of the problem that's ongoing in this country is because we fail as a country to admit that there is in fact a black and white issue, and as long as we don't face the issue, we can't fix the issue?
Since slavery, there's always been a black-white issue in this country, and we never want to say it. This country has never even apologized for slavery, not one time, not under any president, including Barack Obama. They've never said racism exists in this country. They've never said, well, you know, slavery was wrong. It was morally wrong. It should never have happened. Now, everybody has gotten reparations in this country but black folk. Everybody. The Jews got reparations. The Japanese got reparations. We just never got them. Because to give reparations means that you got to repair something that you did wrong.
Thank you, sir.
Reverend George was trying to get to free press. My question is, have you checked into, or anyone checked into, the number of white police officers like in Baton Rouge versus the number of black police as well as in the other location? Because there's a great possibility that these people do not work in the community, therefore they cannot identify with the people that live there.
Well, you know, I'm not an Indian. I have no right to go into an Indian reservation and tell or teach Indian children. You're not just teaching children, you're teaching Indian children. White folks that don't live on the reservation always have reservations about people who do. And when it comes to black folk, whites don't live on this reservation, so they have reservations about us. And they have reservations about us because they don't know us. We know them, we've had to learn them ever since we've been here. But they don't know us. Some of them are afraid of us, and some of them are just downright racist.
Reverend, another question, if I may. Also, the question is always asked to the black community. Once incidents such as this happen, the question is, why do they always call on the black leadership as well as the black pastors for calmness? Do they ever do that with any other people, or why do you think they do?
No. Well, let me say this. If somebody from Mars came here today and asked, where are the black leaders? They'd say, oh, that's Reverend Rose, that's Reverend Walker, that's Reverend. But they don't say, oh, that's Reverend Moon from over at First United Methodist, or that's Reverend so-and-so at that white church or that white church. Because they don't consider white preachers leaders. They would talk to the business people. Maybe some of the politicians, but mainly business people. That's who they would talk to, because that's who they would consider leaders.
Reverend Rose, another question.
Yes.
How would you respond to the fact that the choice of words that are being used by social media, media, for instance, when the black men were killed, it was called a shooting. When the white officers were killed, it was called an ambush. It reminds me of our history books that state when the Native Americans won a battle, it was called a massacre. And when the white people won a war or a battle, it was called a victory. Seems as though history hasn't changed much.
No. The reason that we were brought here to this country was to make money for white folks. That has not changed. Indians would not bow, they would not bend, so they just simply massacred them. And those that they didn't kill, they sent them off on a reservation to die.
Reverend, one final question for me, and that is this. I heard you mention about our police chief and what he has done to try to keep things on even well, if you will. My question is, why do you give him accolades? Because we also have a sheriff department. Why do you often speak good of him? I mean, what is his relationship to the black community in Valdosta?
Well, let me be clear about something. Police chief is not here today because I didn't invite him here today. Sheriff Prine is not here today. I didn't invite him here today. However, I'm going to be straight with everybody. Not since 2013 have we had the kind of problems that I had myself before he came here. And he met with me, he met with the NAACP, and he met with several leaders, and he's still doing that on a bi-monthly basis to talk about any issue that we want to talk about. And when he took office, He called all of his men in front of all of us, and he said to them, it's over. It's over. Everybody in this town gonna be treated fairly. And if we have a problem and it's our fault, we're gonna own up to it. He's done that with me. And I'm not gonna lie about that. He's done that with me. I can't say that about the other police chief, and I can't say that about the sheriff.
Reverend Rose, one final question.
You sure this is the final one?
What direction are we gonna move here in Valdosta, Lowndes County? What are we gonna do now?
Well, my own view is that right now we are locked in a problem with the Valdosta City Schools about black contractors. Listen, if black folks don't have work, they're gonna do whatever they have to do to survive. I'm as good as anybody, but I got a choice between starving and stealing. Floyd Rose will steal. If that's the only choice I feel that I have, and that's the kind of choice the black folks facing now. A lot of them are just faced with a problem. Now, it's true that they steal and take from their own people, and I don't like that. I don't think they need to do that. But I'm also realistic to know that if a guy is selling drugs, particularly marijuana, and he has no other way he thinks to survive, then I'm not gonna blame him for that. If that's the only way he feels like he can survive. He gets arrested, goes to jail, comes out, nobody wants to give him a job, so he goes back to the same man that gave him the job in the first place, the drug dealer.
Anyone else have something they want to say or comments? Bob, whether you over in Jacksonville, what do you think about the local situation here in Valdosta? You be here quite a lot.
Well, me myself, I've had dealings with the chief. He is an honorable man, and he has stand branch, and he just has stand up to his word to try to work with all the community leaders and stuff. So I never had a problem with him. I'm not going to say anything about the sheriff. I never had any personal dealings with the sheriff or issues I had to look into. So.
Come on in, that's Ashley Hawk.
How y'all?
Fine, sir, how are you?
Y'all want a little report in the hospital for me?
They wasn't that?
Y'all want a report in the hospital?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
we have
I've
it.
been there.
See the police officer.
Police officer got shot 3 times, twice in the vest, once right below the vest, abdomen wound. He's talking and he's gonna be fine. The perpetrator is an Asian American.
Okay, but
What
he
I
had nothing, that had nothing to do with our situation. That the police chief told me earlier today. Said that somebody was breaking into something or something. What happened?
Supposedly the officers responded to it, breaking and entering a vehicle.
Yeah.
So I don't know, how this guy got there or what he was involved, but,
Do you know whether or not he lived there?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
He's still alive, the perpetrator is. I think they're gonna lifeline him. But,
Let me say to you, like I've said to everybody else here, at no time have I or anybody that's associated with the SCLC ever decided that all white police officers were racist. Nobody said that. And nobody deserved to be killed, period. Black folk don't deserve to be killed and white people don't deserve to be killed. You have no right to take what you cannot give, which is human life. And nobody has the right to do that. And that's what I've said today, and that's what I'll say tomorrow and the day after that.
It's a difficult situation. I was shot at 3 times in my 16 years. Unfortunately, I was not injured and I didn't kill anybody. But, when you get in that situation, it's a bad situation on both sides.
Well, most things can be resolved if it's de-escalated.
Most things, if you will walk up to somebody and treat them like you want to be treated, put your hand on the shoulder, if they'll let you, and say, let's talk
Yeah.
about this. That's the way I always try to train my officers. It doesn't always work, but it works more than it doesn't work. But I just figured you wanted to know what was going on.
Well, I appreciate you coming back to us.
I went back and served with the chief, and there's 2 Hancocks working these. Of course, don't quote me on the names. 2 at the police department, father and son. This is the father. Got shot.
Okay.
son lived right there and heard the call and got there. Said he had on a pair of, he said he slipped on a pair of shorts and got there. And said his father was right there too.
Okay,
As always, I always try to keep you abreast of everything.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. Sorry to interrupt y'all.
No, we thank you.
It's all right, we didn't know that, and I'm glad to hear that.
I'm doing good, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Can I make a comment? From my experience, with police, you have to, what I tell my niece, my nephews and stuff, I said, when the police stop you, keep your hands on that steering wheel. And we need to train our police, especially young police. Young police are very dangerous because they are young and they have a gun to give them that power in their head. So I think we have to be very, very careful with our young police. And they need to be trained a little better on how to deal with situations like that. But here in Valdosta, to me, the issue is jobs. You know, you have people here that have jobs, but they're afraid to speak up. They're humming down on these jobs, and you know, in Valdosta we have one of the lowest pay rate in the country for our people. You know, $10 an hour is probably the minimum that people are making here. You can't live off that. You know,
Right.
so and we have people here, and our politicians, and I don't have nothing against all politicians, but I'm not even sure they're going in the right direction. Even our elected officials, they don't seem to go out and look for jobs for this community. We're so far behind, and our thinking process is way behind, to my opinion. And education, you know, I spend 4 days a week at Pineville volunteering. You know, a lot of our kids are put on drugs. And I think it's because they have bad behavior, because they are put into a structured environment, but for the first 4 or 5 years, they have an unconstructed environment. And we're just putting them on drugs, and we're not doing anything to really help them get past that bad behavior. If we're just putting them on drugs, and they're getting crossed off as bad kids, but I don't see them as bad kids. They are very smart kids at that school at Pineville. Very smart, but you got to work with them to get them past that bad part. And we're not doing that. I'm not blaming the school system either. It's the community to me. We have to do better as a community to help our kids get past that. Every parent can't be a good parent. My nieces was not a good parent, so we had to help. So there's a lot of our kids, I feel so bad for them, like they're stuck in one place, because we can't get them, especially around Mildred Hunter Center. That's the area I work at most time. It's almost like it's another third world country when you go through there.
I think that's it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna close out, but then you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I want to add to what he was just saying now. I don't know if all y'all know, I know Reverend Rose, he knows Dr. Umar Johnson. He's a good friend of mine. He's one of the writers of, one of the guys that was in Hidden Colors 1, 2, and 3 by Tariq Nash. And from his diagnosis, 60% of our children that's on medication is misdiagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Is misdiagnosed, and he offers free clinical evaluations to anybody that children are on medication that misdiagnosed. All you gotta do is just type it on the internet, Dr. Umar Johnson, and all his contact information is on there. And he'll, if you can't get it, I have his cell phone number. I'll give it to you, but he will re-diagnose your child if your child, you know, because he says 60% of our children are misdiagnosed because of the fact of money issues. That's exactly what it is. It's making profit. And if I know, I have experienced that the food and the medication is not designed to cure you. It's designed to keep you sick to buy more. I know this for a fact because I used to take 4 shots of insulin a day, 3 shots and 1 at night of insulin, 4 shots a day about 3 years ago. I'm totally off this now because I know the truth about the medicine. What they don't inform you, that anybody that takes insulin shot, what the doctors don't inform you, that insulin shots is a promoter of cancer. That's the part they don't tell you. It is a promoter of cancer. Why would you take this and stick? So I had to come up with a better plan. I got offered. There's a better way.
What's that phone number?
Yes, thank you.
What's that phone?
We gonna go. Good.
Reverend Rose, I would like for you to close, if you could, I'd like you to close this out with this. If you had a word to give to the nation, the United States of America today, on all that we're seeing right now, what would you say to the nation?
I would simply say, be true to what you said on paper. That's it. Be true to what you said on paper. When you said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Be true to what you said on paper. All men, black men, white men, green men, yellow men, all men, brown men are created equal. Now, there are rights that we have that are not derived from nor granted by the state. They're given to us by God at birth.
Amen.
And all we have to do is get us to respect those rights. And that's it. You don't have to give them to nobody. Just respect them. God gave them to us.
Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Ghetto Free Press 24. Thank you for tuning in. Facebook Live. Peace.
That number?
Yeah, the number, yes.
You always agree.
The number.
Yeah, I gotta get it out my phone, so let me know.
The name.
Dr. Omar Johnson.
Oh, my.
I met you years ago in Boss Max. We talked for a while.
Johnson.
And I've seen you around here and there, but
That's a big issue for me. That's a big issue for me, the drug thing. Kids.
I put
I
a
feel
little
sorry
church
for
up
the
in
kids.
Hancock. I got an email this morning about 6 o'clock.
It's a mental state of slavery. I didn't want to go any
I
deeper.
drove around trying to
Mental
find
state of slavery.
But someone had to do with the
All I
parents.
know.
A
He
lot
kept trying
of
to take me to
times realize
Union
they don't
Diesel,
check.
and I
And
kept
that race on
rerouting.
that drug. That is so sad.
Well, tell me how, I don't know.
Oh, you
know, man.
Tell me
Who we
how.
on?
I mean,
I think you probably got, let me write this down so I make sure I know. You got it?
Yes, sir, I got one on me.
Thanks, Catherine.
Time I put it up, his name jumped up there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You don't mind anything. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you can just tell, it's a black psychologist.
He says he's Smith. What you doing?
She knows.
All right.
He usually
Put
have
your
a big
email
tab.
address on that to make sure I know it.
I was
And your,
I was in my
your,
car, I
your,
went to pick up, you know, I rode my bicycle to Senior, I was coming back.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you being here. All right.
Pleasure.
Thank you, though.
What's today? I didn't know he was gonna send you. I called him this morning because he got everybody, he got all this national news, he don't never have no local news. So I
Exactly.
called him, yeah.
Exactly. I'm so glad you did. Cause, he called me and I said, I'll be right there.
Send this to you.
Cause I was on my way to get ready to go out there.
Okay. So that other girl ain't had that now.
Okay, you all ready? No? Okay.
Who's starting that?
I'll start and I'll defer to the city manager to make some comments too, okay? We ready? Okay, well, first of all, good afternoon, and just for the sake of everybody understand who we are, I'm Brian Childers, I'm the police chief of Valdosta Police Department. This is City Manager Larry Hanson, and of the city of Valdosta. I'm gonna go through some details of what happened this morning. I'm gonna be limited in what I can tell you, because we are following proper protocol here when we work an officer-involved shooting. This morning at 7:54 a.m., Valdosta Police Department responded to a call at Three Oaks Apartments. This was a non-priority call, meaning it was a call for a damage to a vehicle or a potential vehicle break-in that had already occurred. The officer, the responding officer who was shot, he's identified as Officer Randall Hancock. I'll tell you that because his family has been notified. Officer Hancock arrived on scene at 8:12 a.m. and after arriving on scene and telling dispatch he was on scene, a little over a minute later, the officer called out on the radio screaming for assistance because he was saying that he was shot. Several law enforcement agencies at that point responded immediately to back him up, and I do want to mention these agencies because we appreciate what they've done to help our officer and also to help the offender in this case. Obviously, additional Valdosta police officers responded. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the Valdosta Fire Department, the Eccles County Sheriff's Office, Georgia State Patrol, South Georgia Emergency Medical Services, Remington Police Department, and VSU Police Department, and of course, we called in the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. When we arrived on scene, Officer Hancock had been shot multiple times. Let me talk to you about his status of where he is right now. He was immediately taken to the South Georgia Medical Center along with the offender, and we'll talk about the offender in just a second. And shortly after arriving there, he was taken to surgery. He is out of surgery now. His family is at the hospital, and I'm happy to report that he's going to be fine. He's in stable condition, but he is in ICU as a precaution. When other officers arrived on scene, we also identified an offender who we're not going to release the name yet of. All I can tell you is that initially what we're being told is this is an Asian male, and the offender also had been shot. What I can tell you, and the only thing I'm going to tell you about this investigation, is that it appears that when our officer arrived on scene, he was shot at multiple times and returned fire. Now, where are we at with it? We're following the standard protocol and the professional protocol that's set by our policies, by accreditation standards, and that protocol is anytime you have an officer-involved shooting, regardless, that the direction of the city manager and the direction of our policies and procedures is that we call in an independent outside agency. In this case, we've called in the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. And when were they called in? They were called in within minutes after the incident, after we realized what happened. And so they are out there right now working the scene. I'm going to provide you a number, if I got it here, that we refer to, and we'll give it to you later. But the number for any follow-up information on this case will have to be directed by the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, or to the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. The number is 229-225-4090, because at this point they're conducting an independent investigation into the shooting. As for the offender, our last check is in stable condition, and he is, my understanding, being transferred to a hospital in Florida for follow-up medical care. So in saying that, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager and let him make some comments.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to say that it's important at times like this that we encourage peace and calm, and that we find strength in our faith. And it's often said that a police officer leaves office each morning not knowing whether he or she will return home to his or her family. And it's incidents like these that bring realization to the dangers that our police professionals face each and every day in carrying out their duties to serve and protect. I want to say we appreciate the community concern that's been expressed this morning and this afternoon, and the support that's been received, and the professional care and compassion that our officer and his family has received from South Georgia Medical Center.
And I do want to mention a few other things too. The officer's family was notified rather quickly. We got them to the hospital. I do want to share my appreciation to South Georgia Medical Center. They got to treat the officer. They also have to treat the offender in this case, and they've done their job. And I was very impressed with their staff. I also want to mention that the Valdosta Rotary Club, I think most of you all know we have a law enforcement appreciation program here. They were called in because there's family that are out of state, and they're assisting with getting the family down here to be with the officer. So, you know, I'm relieved that my officer's fine. I am also equally relieved that, you know, the offender's going to make it. But where we're at with it right now is we've done everything that we believe a professional law enforcement agency should do to investigate an officer-involved shooting. We followed our policies, and we followed it line by line, and so that's what we're doing. And we'll let the G.B.R, a very good agency, do their job, and let them tell us what their investigation found. Now, saying that, I'll take any comments that we can provide you, or any response to any comments or questions.
In the release this morning, it mentioned there was a second offender that may be on the loose. Is that still the case?
That does not appear to be accurate at all. Okay? Any other questions?
Do we know of any sort of motive at this point of why?
If we gave you any motive, it would be purely speculative, and we're not going to do that. So, again, the proper thing to do here, and I want to say this too, that we are hoping, this is a tragic event, but we're hoping we can show the rest of the country, hey, this is how you're supposed to investigate an officer-involved shooting. And that's what we're doing, and we've done it in the past. So I have all the faith in G.B.R. I trust their judgment. I trust what their findings will be, and that's what we're going to follow.
Is there any reason for anybody in that apartment complex to still be concerned?
No, there's no information at this point and to indicate there was more than one person involved in this case. We still don't know what's involved. That's why we do an investigation. And I've asked the G.B.R., at the direction of the city manager, to handle everything. Handle the criminal part of the call, the investigation of the officer-involved shooting. It just makes better sense to us to let one outside investigative agency do it all, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Do we know exactly where what happened? Was it by a certain unit in Three Oaks apartment? Do we know where that kind of?
I do, but I don't want to release that because again, that's part of the investigation, and we certainly don't want to do anything to hinder what the G.B.R. is doing.
Can you speak to the services that were rendered by South Georgia Medical Center, especially their emergency service?
I think they saved my officer's life, and I also believe they probably saved the offender's life. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I called Greg Williams, the Director of Security at South Georgia Medical Center. It's been wonderful this morning with working with me and the city manager. And I told him, you can go ahead and let your staff know, I think you saved my officer's life, and I think they saved the offender's life. That's what I believe.
Can you speak to how many times the officer was shot or where?
I'll just say multiple times, and I'll leave it at that. Again, I don't want to, I wish I could give you more, but I think, and I hope you understand, that let's let the G.B.R. do their job.
Given what happened last night in Dallas, what was going through your head when you got the call this morning?
Well, you start to wonder, but any motive of why this happened this morning, it would be speculation. We're not going to do that. I will tell you, I'm glad my officer's fine. I know the city manager is. He came out and spoke with family, but we're also praying for the men and women of the Dallas Police Department. I think we all ought to focus on those folks too, because that was a tragic event.
What do you contribute the coolness and calmness of the Valdosta Police Department? Is it training? Is it your experience? What contribute to that?
Well, Randall Hancock's a very good officer, and he's one of my most, I would call him Joe Cool if you want to call him that. But look, we spend a lot of time with accreditation. We get tremendous support, financial support, and really political support from and I don't want to make a political statement, but we get a lot of support from the city manager, the mayor, and the council. And that's why we do accreditation. We do accreditation because it sets standards that quite frankly, a lot of law enforcement agencies across the country don't pursue, and we've done that for several years.
How long has that officer been on the force?
I don't have an exact time, but it's been several years. He's a veteran.
As a city manager and a city leader, speak to the leadership that you saw coming from Chief Brian Childers.
Well, of course, Chief is a great leader and does a great job and is very open and communicates great with the community, cares deeply about the men and women of the Valdosta Police Department, and I don't think we can find a better chief in the United States. He sets high standards. He believes in accreditation. He serves as a accreditation officer for other communities and does assessments around the country, so he's highly regarded. It's times like this you really appreciate having an internationally accredited police department, because it's fairly easy to say you're going to live by certain standards or have certain standards, but at times like this you show that you live by those standards and you follow those standards, and in this case bringing in an outside agency to do the investigation, but making sure our men and women of our police department have the adequate resources and the training and the tools that they need, and then we stand by them in their times of need, and that's what we're trying to do now.
In your public presentations, Chief Childers, you often stress the value of training.
Right.
How has that come into play in this particular situation?
Well, it's kind of like anything else you do. If you do training and you provide quality training and you practice that, then when it becomes a reality, you have to do something. It becomes habit, and that's the whole purpose of training. You do training that's professional, quality, and then you do it a lot, and it becomes habit, and that's the value of that too. By the way, I didn't say this too, but we had our police chaplains out this morning too, and one of them's here right now. But they did a phenomenal job, working with the community, working with the family. That's a fairly new program too, and we appreciate them being out with us.
The community effort is so valuable, and the Rotary plays a part in situations like this that's often not publicized. Talk to us about
Well, we are proud in this community to have the Rotary have a program like LEAD and have a law enforcement appreciation dinner each year. The community purchases tables, and that money is set aside in a fund to help law enforcement officers and their families in a time of need. And this is that kind of example. For instance, our officer, some of his family is actually in the United States Air Force stationed on the other side of the country, and we've been able already through relationships to get that family headed back to Valdosta and to make sure the family has the resources to make that happen, and the Rotary plays an important part in that. It's just another example of how our community rallies around and supports public safety, and we're very fortunate to have that kind of relationship.
And by the way, Moody Air Force Base.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about Moody calling and check on our officer?
Well, yeah, obviously, I mean, Moody did call, and just shows the brotherhood in public safety and public servants. And Colonel Conkle, the wing commander at Moody, was quick to offer help, and he personally helped make the call to the Air Force Base out in Wyoming to get the process going to get this officer's family back here. So it just really shows how well we all work together. And equipment, Chief, shows the value of equipment. People take things for granted, like bulletproof vests. They serve a role, and I think when this is said and done, we'll see that had a role in saving this officer's life, and as well as body cameras, so that there is evidence of this after the fact to be reviewed, and so we haven't, know exactly what happened, but it shows the value of investing in equipment to protect your people and also to make sure we get the absolute facts.
Were there security cameras in place on site?
I don't know about security cameras, but there was body cameras available, but that's been turned over to the G.B.R.
Just to be sure, the officer was wearing a bulletproof vest when he was shot.
That is correct. That is correct. And we work with the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the city pays half the funding, and they help us with half the funding. And part of that grant, by the way, is to require officers to wear bulletproof vests. Now, it's hot down here, and I know officers sometimes they complain about it, but the city manager is correct. This is another example why BJA is saying, we'll give you the funding for the vests, but you gotta wear them. And so I can guarantee you that Officer Hancock is going to tell you he's glad he had his vest on.
Right.
Chief, you mentioned that you would like to set an example for the rest of the country as far as how to investigate police shootings.
Right.
With all this going on across the country right now, what are you telling your officers as they go out to patrol?
Well, I sent a message out to the officers this morning, quite honestly. I sent an email out to them when I saw what was going on in Dallas. And I will tell you, I've shared that with some of our community members too, but the email's basically, look, be professional, don't escalate, de-escalate. But I also told them I'm proud of them. And I told them how much I love them. And and I know the city manager does too, how much we care about our officer and our firefighter, all our public safety. But there's a protocol you got to follow, and the protocol is that you have procedures in place that when these things do happen, and you hope they don't happen, but when they do happen, you follow those. And I think if you follow those, there's going to be less judgmental people out there in the community wondering, okay, well, they didn't do the proper thing. We are.
Another thing Chief's done, not only does he lead by example and communicate and interact with his workforce, but he created a police chaplain program and had the foresight last night to ask some of his chaplains to come in, and they were actually at roll call this morning speaking to the officers so that they're there for them as these things are going on around the country. It's important too that you have communication and dialogue and have a sounding board for your officers. In this case, before the incident happened this morning, but also following the incident, because it's a difficult time for public safety officers to see one of their own in this circumstance. So we're fortunate that we have a chaplain here today, and we have several up there at the hospital all morning that they're there, because it's a difficult job these people have, and we should be thankful and appreciative for them.
And who could have anticipated that? No one would anticipate these things happening. Yeah. They could, but we had dialogue this morning around shortly after midnight, and we all agreed, the chaplains and I, that it would be better if they came out, ride with the officers, be in roll calls, and give that calmness, that presence. and also to help us with the community members if we have problems. So, but here's the big thing we want to get across is our officer's okay. It appears he's going to be fine. That's our priority. We love him, and that we reached out to his family right away. We're providing them the support they need, and so let's just let the G.B.R. do their job, and that's the proper way of doing things.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.